Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for Fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and welcome to the 100 Experts video for Game Week 3, the video where we ask 100 FPL experts what they are doing this game week, who they are transferring in, who are they transferring out, who are they captaining, to see if we can find out some trends to kind of suggest what we should do as well. Now this week it is going to be a little bit more interesting than last week because a lot of transfers are being used by experts and there are some transfer trends that I wasn't kind of expecting. There are some players that maybe hidden gems that aren't being spoken about by the wider FPL community that I think you're going to like the look of. So if you do enjoy this video, guys, please do leave a like. It is massively appreciated and really helps out the channel. And do subscribe if you're new around here. We're closing in on 150,000 subscribers, which would be amazing to get to. So hopefully we can do that pretty soon. But without further ado, guys, let's meet the experts from this video. So you can see in front of you the names of 100 FPL experts, pundits and content creators that helped me out with this video. All of these guys provided their data for this video and, you know, a massive shout out to every single one of these people. I really appreciate every single one of them. If you see these names around on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram, on anything, please do go check them out because they are all very good FPL managers in their own right. Let's see what they've been up to this week. So the general trends, first of all, 42% of our 100 experts are making just one transfer today, this week. 37% are making two transfers, so a little bit more there. 1% of our managers are making three transfers, and I have to say that one person was someone who actually, well, not accidentally, but they brought in Nunez one day early in a way to try and avoid price changes, and Nunez ended up getting, red carded, so they had to transfer him out, and that was their third transfer. So that person kind of messed up among our experts. Experts make mistakes as well, trying to go in early on those transfers to kind of chase price rises. So maybe a sobering lesson, a lesson of warning, a word of warning for you guys there about going too early on your transfers. Just one to think about. 17% of our managers are not making any transfers this week, so they are rolling the transfer. In fact, a couple are intending on burning a transfer as well, but whether they'll actually end up doing that is a slightly different question. And we've got 3% once again using a wild card this week. So it is not completely out there to use a wild card. It is rare for an expert to be using a wild card at this stage of the season, but some are. Some people have just had a very poor start to the season, realised they've made a lot of mistakes, maybe gone a little bit too risky too early, and are having to now correct that. So it happens to the best of us, I suppose, guys. Let's have a look, first of all, at the general trends in the overall FPL universe, I suppose. So yeah, I like to have a look at this first in these 100 experts videos because I just think it's really useful to try and compare the kind of strategies and the transfers that most people are going for, the general populace of FPL, who are they going for, and then comparing that to our experts. So these are the 12 most popular transfers in the world. These are the numbers at the time of recording. These are the numbers in which these players are being brought in by. So, we can see Martinelli, over 800,000, bringing in Martinelli among all FPL managers. And we've got Rodrigo, Jesus, De Silva, Tony up there, really popular players. So yeah, you can see here that some players who have been performing pretty well so far are being transferred in pretty heavily by everyone. And we like to see if there's a correlation there, and I have to tell you guys, there is. So pretty much all of the players that you see on screen today, guys, are all not only just being transferred in by most FPL players, but also being transferred in by experts as well. So maybe 2 game weeks worth of data, and we're starting to see a little bit more solidarity between casual FPL players, expert FPL players. We're all in this together, guys. So yeah, there's just a few players on there that are not being heavily transferred in by experts, but there is one player on this list that is being transferred in by none of our experts whatsoever. No interest in one particular player on this list, and you guys are not gonna. You're probably not even going to believe me when I tell you this, because it is De Bruyne. None of our experts are bringing in De Bruyne. I remember on Monday, I put out my tier list video where I ranked De Bruyne as kind of a not such a good transfer to go for, and that's kind of been backed up. 100 experts and not a single person is interested in De Bruyne, whereas overall, the overall managers, over 300,000 people are going for De Bruyne. Experts are not interested in De Bruyne at all, because the question is, who do you sell for De Bruyne? De Bruyne plays Newcastle next, which isn't the best fixture in the world. Who are you going to sell? You're not going to sell Salah ahead of Man United. You're not going to sell Son ahead of Wolves. You're not going to sell, a Haaland or a Kane either. So how do you get De Bruyne in? And I think that's the question that our experts are asking themselves, and why not many of our experts are really interested in bringing it in De Bruyne. Maybe a little bit of a knee-jerk, maybe a little bit of a reaction to last game week's points. We don't know if it's going to happen again. It's really just a case of who do you sacrifice to get him in. No one's saying De Bruyne is a bad pick, but you know, not very many people who are, you know, very experienced FPL players are, you know, around on Twitter, in YouTube. Not really many people are talking about actually transferring in De Bruyne. So if you want to go for it, fair enough. But it's certainly not correlating with our expert data at all. So yeah, let's actually have a look now. Who is being taken out by our experts? Who is being transferred out? Who's going? Who's gone? Well, here is a list of players who are very much in the mud, and yeah, there's one standout mudded player here, and that is Bailey. So out of our 80 FPL experts that are making one or more transfers, so that's excluding people who are not making transfers, and it's excluding people using a wild card this week, 40 are bringing in Bailey, taking out Bailey. Half of them are taking out Bailey. And we saw kind of pre-season that Bailey was a really, really popular expert pick. So I would say pretty much at this point, any FPL expert or whatever you want to call them, anyone who's got Bailey right now is thinking about removing them, and he's going to be a super, super popular transfer out, and he's probably going to drop down in price as well. So if you have got Bailey, just because he's no longer guaranteed minutes, there's been a switch of formation at Aston Villa, and they got a good result there as well. Players like Ings and Watkins are going to keep Bailey out of the first 11, unfortunately. Same with Buendia. He's going to come in there probably ahead of Coutinho whilst he's injured. So yeah, it's just not looking good for Bailey right now, and we've kind of been reminded why he is only 5 million. So a lot of people selling him, but he's not the only person being sold by experts. Robertson and Trippier each have 12 sales, so that's pretty significant. The big thing that we should note with Robertson is that a lot of people are selling Robertson to kind of free up money to upgrade someone else. So, you know, you doing 2 transfers and selling both Bailey and Robertson, and therefore, you know, you free up some Robertson money to spend on upgrading Bailey to a slightly better midfielder. So that is one thing to note, that Robertson is a piggy bank in a way. We're not selling him because we think he's bad. We're selling him because, you know, we want to use the money elsewhere. Trippier is a really interesting one because he's actually one of the most popular transfers in the world. You know, among all FPL players, a lot of people are bringing in Trippier, and yet the most popular transfers out among experts has Trippier in joint second most popular transfer out. So that says a lot, doesn't it, really, about some of the clashes between, you know, experts and casuals' kind of opinion on what kind of transfers to make. And then we've got some other players in there: Rashford, Neto, Archer's being sold by a few people in order to change formation to a 3-forward formation. Cash, Digne, the Aston Villa defenders are going out as well, and a few people selling Saka to free up some funds as well. Let's have a look next at who's being brought in, and there's a lot of different players being brought in, let me tell you that. Okay, so slightly less of a spread in the transfers in, because there are a variety of different forwards that people are going for, midfielders should I say, that people are going for in order to replace Bailey or Rashford or whoever. You know, a lot of people are removing at least one midfielder, maybe Neto as well. There's a few options here. There's a few options here for players you can bring in. So this is what you see in front of you guys right now. I always use this when I collect the data. I look at the most popular transfers in among experts, and I kind of consider that the weekly shopping list. This is a list of players that if I don't have some of these players already, they're probably worth having a look at the very least having a look at to consider bringing in. So this is our Game Week 3 shopping list in a way, the most popular transfers in among experts. De Silva is leading the line there, a really obvious replacement for Bailey. A lot of people bringing in De Silva, not with the intention of playing him every game week, but with rotating him around, you know, depending on the game week, depending on the fixture, maybe playing De Silva some games. But he's a nice Bailey replacement, as you can really afford De Silva no matter what, because he's much cheaper than Bailey, so you can actually afford him. There's some of the other options, you know, Pascal Gross, you can see there, Martinelli, they're a little bit more expensive than a Bailey or a Neto even, so they are a little bit harder to get to. So maybe, unless you have money in the bank, you might actually need a double transfer to upgrade to a Gross or a Martinelli, unless of course you're downgrading a you know, a Rashford or maybe a Sancho, a Manchester United midfielder. Cucurella is very popular among the defenders. He's the most popular defender to bring in this week. Reece James is in there as well. A few people don't have Reece James, and you can see some other defenders there. Cancelo, Zinchenko slightly down the list. One thing I do want to note is Perisic. So a lot of people have asked me this week, should I sell Perisic? Well, according to our experts, none of our experts are selling Perisic this week, but 4 people are actually buying Perisic. So maybe that answers your question. Should you sell Perisic? Definitely not, because if experts are actually wanting to have Perisic in their team, it means that you're actually one step ahead of them, which is pretty interesting. Rodrigo is less popular than your Gross and your Martinelli. I kind of expected that to happen, but I don't know if you guys expected that to happen, for Rodrigo to be that you know, half as popular popular as a Gross, half as popular as a Martinelli, but there you go. And Solly March is an interesting inclusion here as well. Did you see that one coming? Solly March, he's 5 million as well, so maybe a Bailey replacement for you. He's done pretty well playing in the kind of right wing back position for Brighton. Brighton looking good at the moment. He is listed as a midfielder despite playing as a wing back though, so don't expect too much from him, but March has been, actually looked quite good in the opening 2 fixtures, so maybe one to keep an eye on if you're looking for a 5 million option. Certainly out the 5 million midfielders, March has been the most popular, unless you count, Josh Da Silva as a 5 million midfielder, which he isn't quite, but maybe soon. And just some various other players in there. Rico Henry, the most popular 4.5 million midfielder to bring in. Very interesting. I quite like that one as well. If you're looking for a 4.5 million midfielder, Henry is probably going to be your guy. And there you go. That pretty much concludes the shopping list. Let's suggest maybe some different transfers that you can go for this week. Okay, so first of all, let's suggest some midfield transfers, and I'm going to put Bailey out on every one of these examples, but I do also want to note that if you do have a different midfielder that you want to get rid of, Neto or Rashford or whoever else, then, just swap Bailey for them, and, visually swap them, and swap out, a Rashford for a Da Silva, a Rashford for a Gross, a Rashford for a Martinelli, or whoever else you have that you want to remove. So yeah, basically, your midfielder that you don't want, there are 3 options: Da Silva, Gross, and Martinelli, and those are the 3 most popular options by a significant amount. So those are the 3 you want to go for. Da Silva is probably the one you're going to want to go for if you've got no money in the bank and you don't want to make a double transfer. Then Da Silva is your guy because you don't need to worry about budget. He is your budget option. What I would say about Da Silva is don't expect to play him every single game week. He is not going to be a standout, playing in your first 11 every week type player. Don't expect too much from him. He's not going to score the way he has so far every game week, basically. Pascal Gross, on the other hand, looks pretty good on penalties, on set pieces, playing in an advanced position, playing in a Brighton team with good fixtures, and a Brighton team that are playing very well, who I've been very impressed by so far this season. Despite their draw with Newcastle, I thought they looked very, very good in that game. So yeah, Gross, slightly different option there, not massively expensive at 5.6 million. If you've got a little bit of money in the bank and, you can sacrifice Bailey for him, or, Neto, he's only 0.1 more expensive than Neto. Maybe you can afford to do that move as well, so one to consider for sure. And then finally, Martinelli, who is a little bit more difficult to get it to from a budget point of view, depending on who you're selling to get Martinelli. But I think Martinelli is the best choice out of the 3. Out of Da Silva, Gross, and Martinelli, if you could only get one, then Martinelli would be the one I go for. But obviously it's going to be a little bit difficult to get to him. It may require a double transfer, or it may require the fact that maybe you just by coincidence have a load of money in the bank. If that is you, then Martinelli is your Bailey replacement, Martinelli is your Neto replacement. Whoever you're trying to replace in midfield, Martinelli is your guy. Even like a Jack Grealish or someone like that, Martinelli, like no doubt about it. He just seems like the best transfer in. But let's have a look at some other positions. So into defence, Robertson is a good player to remove, apparently. I'm not going to personally agree with this one, but I try and keep my own personal bias out of these 100 expert videos. But the fact is that Robertson is being sold by, what is it, 10, 12 of our FPL experts, mostly to get a bit of money in the bank, though. Try and free up some funds, which is absolutely fine if that's the way you want to go with things. If you're just happy to free up 1 million, then Reece James, if you haven't got him already, fantastic replacement for Robertson. He's going to probably do very well against Leeds this game week. If you want to free up even more money, you really want to free up 2 million, then Cucurella could be an interesting one to go for. Could be kind of interesting, particularly whilst the likes of Chilwell and Alonso are injured. Then Cucurella is going to be a pretty good option, isn't he? So yeah, just be aware of Chilwell coming back. But even then, Cucurella could just simply move to the left centre-back position. And for 5 million, you can't go too far wrong with 5 million for a Chelsea defender, can you? And finally, if you just want Cucurella and you don't want to sacrifice a Robertson or sacrifice another one of your defenders, Trippier seems like a really good player to remove this game week. He's got Man City now, he's got Liverpool in game week 5, so 2 difficult fixtures coming up. Yeah, straight to Cucurella, whilst they're both the same price still, could be a pretty nice move, because I can see Trippier dropping down, I can see Cucurella moving up. To be fair, Trippier, so many people are bringing him in because they just look at last week's points that he probably won't drop down in price, but I can see Cucurella going up to 5.1 potentially by the end of the week. So yeah, there you go. There's some suggested transfers. What about those captains? Okay, so our expert top game week 3 captain picks are 5 players. We've got 5 players. We've got, some obvious ones, and then slightly lower down the list, some less obvious ones. So Salah is our number 1 choice with 68% of our contributors going for Salah against Manchester United. Now, we know that Nunez is going to be not playing in this game, which might mean Salah is going to come fairly central, which may help him. But Salah has got an absolutely insane record against Manchester United. I mean, those of you guys who watched Salah versus Man United last season, both times, will probably know exactly what I'm talking about there. And right now, Manchester United are just in just a very, very sorry state, a really sorry state. And last season, a lot of people made the mistake of thinking, yeah, Man United are in a bad state, but they're still Man United. Surely Salah can't score that many goals against them. People made that mistake last season, and I just feel like this season, people are kind of wise to it a little bit. Don't doubt Salah against a team that is kind of in the mud right now. Man United are just not in a good place whatsoever. Their morale is going to be at an all-time low. Not many players are even going to want to be playing for the club right now. It really is looking pretty tragic, unfortunately, and apparently a lot of people are going to be boycotting that match as well. So it's going to be a quiet Old Trafford, and Salah has the potential to go and dominate this game. I mean, he dominates this game at the best of times, so that he is a clear favourite captain pick for a very good reason. Jesus as well, 24%. So Jesus at 24%, that is absolutely viable. We've not got a clear 80-90% winner here. We have got Jesus as an outlier here, an outsider that we could potentially go for, with a decent proportion of experts going for him as well. He plays against newly promoted Bournemouth, and Jesus, last game, 2 goals and 2 assists, and he could have got more in that game as well. He's clearly really, really central, really, really important to what Arsenal are doing in attack right now. Everything seems to be built around Jesus in that Arsenal attack, and if you think Arsenal are going to win by 2-3 goals, or score 2 or 3 goals, maybe even 4, then the likeliness is that Jesus is going to be involved in, the majority of those goals. So a 4-0 win equals 2 or 3 Jesus goal contributions, which is really, really, really impressive. That's exactly what we want for our captains, isn't it? So yeah, definitely on the cards, definitely an option, 100% one to consider this game week alongside Salah. And then there's some kind of outsiders. We've got Kane, 5% going for him. Wolves at home. A lot of people rate that as a fairly good fixture. Wolves maybe not quite the defensive outfit as they have been in the past, and we know, this Spurs team is all about the attack and all about scoring goals. I mean, they've already scored 6 goals in 2 games, which is a pretty good start considering one of those games was against Chelsea. We won't talk about too much the nature of those goals, particularly the second one, but that's another conversation entirely. Haaland at 2% versus Newcastle away. That is kind of considered a difficult fixture. I know City did very well last season against Newcastle, but I mean, look, Newcastle have 2 clean sheets for a good reason. They've been one of the best defences in Europe over the last 6 months. So to suggest that automatically that's going to happen again, maybe a little bit naive. The probability says that Manchester City are probably only going to score a couple of goals, and that's an achievement in itself. Whether you think Haaland's going to be involved in those couple of goals is another question. Do you think that's going to happen? Maybe. In which case, maybe worth considering. And Son against Wolves, 1% going for him. So not really a trend, just one person out of the 100. But yeah, there seems to be a little bit more interest in those Spurs players than those Man City players, though, among experts for captaincy. So maybe a lot of people are thinking that maybe that Spurs are going to score a few more goals in this game, get a few more returns. Maybe this is going to be Spurs' game to do quite well. Maybe, in the constant battle between Kane and Haaland, maybe Kane has got this opportunity to steal a march on Haaland in this game week, judging by this data. But, who knows? We kind of expected the other ones, the other game weeks to kind of be the other way round. So you never really know what's going to happen in football. But yeah, certainly a good opportunity for those Spurs boys. But Salah and Jesus are by far the most popular captains for this game week among experts. Salah being the most popular one. But if you're feeling a little bit spicy, maybe Jesus. If you're feeling very spicy, maybe you can opt for a Spurs attacker. And there we have it, guys. That's the end of the video. If you did enjoy what you saw today, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe. You can still get, by the way, guys, 50% off your Fantasy Football Hub subscription until the end of this week. So until the deadline. So if you are thinking about getting that Fantasy Football Hub subscription, do it before Friday, because you don't pay the extra when you don't have to. There's no point. Just get the cheap version. Not the cheap version. You get the full version, but just for cheaper. Yeah, we got my team selection video tomorrow. We're going to do one more video on Friday after that, we're going to talk about some of the midfield options and the pros and cons of going for each midfielder. You know, Rodrigo, Gross, Martinelli, De Silva, etc., etc. We're going to go over all of those and go and deep dive into those stats as well, which might be kind of interesting to some of you, I guess. Some of you fellow nerds, I guess. And then, of course, a stream for the deadline. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Go check out some of the other videos I've made this week, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.